chairperson, Alex Mashilo. Alex, thank you. Or should I say Dr. Mashilo? Thank you so much for your time and for coming on to News at Prime today. You were scheduled to have an Alliance Secretariat meeting today, which I believe would have been the first time that you would have had an opportunity to engage with Mr. Mantashe on this matter. Were you able to do that?
The Alliance Secretariat is attended by the Secretary Generals of the ANC and General Secretaries of COSATU and the SACP. Indeed, the meeting did take place today at the ANC headquarters in Johannesburg, Litule House. The meeting focused on the state of SAA and what needs to be done going forward, given the announcement made last week by the business rescue practitioners liquidating the South African Airways on all local routes except one, that is Johannesburg and Cape Town, and leaving SAA with some international routes. We disagree with that approach as the SACP. We support the comments or statement made by the President on Friday before he left to Addis Ababa, and we support the engagement that he proposed will take place between the state and the business rescue practitioners. Their role in particular is not to dismantle SAA, is not to bring SAA down, it is to turn around SAA. So what they did there is that they found some of the routes profitable and some of the routes not profitable. And instead of turning around SAA on the routes that are not profitable, they are shutting down SAA on those roads.
Yes, but did you get an opportunity to speak to Mr. Mantashe about this? Or because you had mentioned that this was an issue that the SACP would be bringing up within the alliance, and that in fact you would want him to be disciplined in one way or the other for the comments. So I wonder what the consensus out of that meeting was then on this matter.
Look, the ANC had a National Working Committee meeting yesterday, Monday. We were assured there was a discussion that took place at that meeting. Comrade Gwede does not attend the meeting of the Alliance Secretariat as I explained its composition. But what he did during the course of the meeting was to make a call, and then there was a discussion. What now we are looking forward to achieve is to implement our shared perspective with the ANC. That is number one. We want SAAA to be turned around. That is not to be dismantled. Number two, we want it, having been turned around, to serve as the mainstay of our domestic aviation industry with successful regional, continental, and international routes. This may require partnerships internationally and a different approach on how it operates locally. We have agreed to continue with the engagements with the relevant ministers because the Department of Public Enterprises issued a statement as directed by the President on Friday to engage with the business rescue practitioners. And in its statement, the department agreed and said that the decision made by the business rescue practitioners has to be reviewed. We are looking forward to those engagements. There are several grounds why we want those engagements. Firstly, the credit received by SAA is guaranteed by the state. The state is the guarantor of that credit. What this means is that if anything that happens with SAA, including the failure of the business rescue practitioners to turn it around, will be paid for by the state. The business rescue practitioners have an obligation to produce a turnaround strategy and present it to government as the shareholder.
It's interesting that you should talk about
consideration.
It's interesting you should talk about turnaround strategies, because just last night we had on Thabang Motsohi, who is an independent analyst and consultant who has even advised Parliament on affairs at SAA, at least before this business rescue process got underway. And he says the turnaround strategy that had been put on the table under its former CEO, Vuyani Jahana, was never given a chance, that the state did not do any of the 4 things that they needed to commit to, or that they had committed to, in order to turn SAA around. So when you talk about a turnaround within the framework of the business rescue process, what cause do you have to believe that, in fact, that is what the state is committed to?
Because they are appointed to turn it around. That is their mandate. Their mandate is not to bring it down, it is to turn it around.
Do you think they're bringing it down now, that through some of their decision making, they're destroying SAA?
Of course they are destroying SAA. Where have you seen in the world a national airline that is prohibited to operate in its own domestic market succeeding in the markets of other countries?
What is the motivating factor? Why do you think they would do this?
They have taken a mechanical approach. We are talking about the arteries that supply the flow of blood and coordinate it for the whole body. So when they arrive there, they say, this one is small, this one is small, this one is small, and this one is big. Therefore, we are cutting the smaller ones, without taking into considerations that the smaller ones are a feeder to the bigger ones. Once you cut them down, the ones that remaining will not have a feeder. They are going to collapse. They have not taken into account the fact that SAA is a network carrier. It is not a point-to-point carrier. Once we appoint you and say, we have a problem with the route between East London and Johannesburg, it is not profitable. Your mandate is to turn around that route and make it profitable. We are not saying to you that your mandate is to shut down that route.
What then does this mean for the entire business rescue process? Because by law, the convener of the process is allowed to do whatever he thinks is necessary to do. So Mr. Les Martins can do what he has done. So to the extent that the state has expressed its dislike of these decisions, and it's now also coming in from a political party and alliance position, what does it mean for this whole process? Are you seeing a situation where it's completely called off now and we're back to the drawing board?
In the first place, the SACP never supported the decision to place SAA under a business rescue process. We believe that SAA was tenable. And if you made changes at a policy level, if you made changes at a policy implementation level, and changes at the governance and management level, you will turn around SAA. That is what we believed. Now, what we see under this rescue process is a total picture altogether. But we don't want to go back and say this, we have warned you that this was a wrong move. By the way, the fact that there are business rescue practitioners now does not mean that SAA is no longer a state-owned enterprise. It does not mean that SAA is no longer owned by the state on behalf of the people. That fact does not mean, just the last point, that the state is no longer the guarantor of the credit given to SAA. Whatever conduct the business rescue practitioners adopt has to be held to account. They have to give the state their turnaround strategy. It is laughable that they cancelled the routes locally without producing any turnaround strategy. What plan are they following?
So are you seeing a situation here where while you wait for the interim plan, and of course, by the looks of it, it'll need the rubber stamp of government, that without that, and whatever conversations are taking place behind the scenes amongst the alliance partners, that this process, at least of business rescue for SAA, may come to an end?
Look, they were appointed by the state. They are not a law unto themselves. The fact that they are there as business rescue practitioners does not mean that they are unaccountable. They are subject to criticism. We have the right to voice our views about their decisions. They have to accept that. And they will have to be engaged with in line with the statement instructed by the President, issued by the Department of Public Enterprises. Because at the end of the day, it is taxpayers' money that will be used to pay whatever losses that occur if their plan fails. So far, they have not produced any plan in public except to make abrupt announcement of the cancellation of SAA routes.
Alex Mashelu, let's leave it there for tonight. He's of